What's going on, good people of the internet? It is time once again for Comics Unmasked, the podcast where a bunch of folks shoot the breeze and talk about comic books and such. We are back for episode 9. We are 9 episodes in. We will be having a double episode next week, but we are just having a single this week for y'all. Next week we will be having an exclusive interview with writer T.S. Luther about his brand new book, The Digger, at Invader Comics. But this week we keeping it chill. We keeping it chill. We got some heavy topics to talk about a little bit because people out here being goofy. We got the alt-right being the alt-right. It's gonna be a fun time, y'all. It's gonna be a fun time. But we're gonna go ahead and dive into it. Don't forget that you can listen to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Now we are on YouTube, like Amazon Music and Audible and iHeartRadio. If you like any of those platforms, we appreciate you. We are going to be announcing the winner of our giveaway here in a second, because we had a launch party to giveaway for our Discord, because we were trying to get people to encourage people to come through the Discord, help support us. All you had to do to enter was boost the server or leave a review on Spotify and Apple. And a lot of people were awesome and helped out with that. You can follow us on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Instagram, on YouTube, all those places. Make sure that you hang out with us. We have some awesome content coming out for y'all. And we just launched the Patreon. So if you want to help us out, you want to lend a couple dollars here and there, feel free to check us out at patreon.com/Comics Unmasked. We would love to have y'all come through and drop support. All right, all the businessy stuff done. The winner of the giveaway, the launch giveaway, who will be receiving a volume 1 trade of Something is Killing the Children by James Tynion IV, will be Lady of Darkness in our Discord. So if you, I will be getting with you to get your address. We appreciate you for your support. Honestly, she's just been awesome in the Discord. We had a movie night for Halloween, and she's just been super awesome hanging out with everybody. So I was happy.
She is awesome. It's been an absolute pleasure. It is so cool seeing individuals get comfortable in the Discord server, and she's certainly been one of them. So deserved, and thank you everybody for the support on this server. I made it literally like a month ago, and a month later we have a good solid 100 in here. It's been really fun. It's been really cool to open up and see the conversations that are happening about different comics, and I honestly feel daily inspired, actually, just opening it up and being like, damn, I should read my TBR list, low-key.
And what's so cool about it is the fact that we had one of Astro's friends help us get it started, and then Ruby came in and just raised the bar even more, and we've just been loving what we've got going on with it.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Y'all have been getting me so hyped, because now I just feel like I want to read every comic that I can, that's just being recommended in there, and I'm like, my bank account's gonna hate me at the end of the day.
All right, well, let's go ahead and dive into the nonsense. We're gonna keep it light with some of the nitty gritty. We'll start with the Marvel news. The Marvel news was kind of light, but I wanted to still talk about it. So the Marvel Twitter account and subsequently our press email found out earlier in the week that the Sorcerer Supreme, the new Sorcerer Supreme, who is getting their own book in December, has been decided. And yes, I know there was some people who were a little upsetty spaghetti that we're learning this now before the trials of the Sorcerer Supreme comes out this month. There's supposed to be a whole contest to find out who's gonna be the new Sorcerer Supreme, but we're finding out who it is already. Everyone's just getting spoiled who's on comic book social media, but that just sucks if you don't want to find out.
I think that's the way of the game, though.
Yeah,
I think it sucks, but it's also one of those things that you can't do much about it in a industry and in a medium that produces weekly. Marvel's focused on those issues coming out this November. Marvel's focused on this cool, sick battle and the tension they can build and all the tie-ins and all this stuff. And then in December, my girl gets to be Sorcerer Supreme.
We definitely gonna talk about it. And that's the thing though, because a lot of people were really butthurt online. They were fake mad out in the streets, and I get it. like it sucks when you're so plugged in and
You
like
don't know how it happened.
exactly. That's the
Exactly.
thing.
That's what I always say, at least.
And I get like, and it's kind of the same situation with DCKO right now, where we don't even know how some of the fights are going down. We don't even know how some of the things, but we already know like the top 6 bracket into January of who's like going up against who. And there was some really butthurt people about DCKO, so it's kind of the same situation where it's like back in the day, the solicitations were something only the comic stores got. Now it's the comic stores, the comic news sources, the
Right.
social medias. Everybody finds
Everybody
out.
gets
So
it. And I can get the feeling for that because it hurts sometimes whenever you're excited for something and then you get that spoiler and you're just like, I didn't want to know that quite yet. I still had like something to look forward to in the future. But at the same time, just because you know the ending does not mean that you understand the journey in which it got there. And so
Yes.
once you understand taking that journey and actually seeing what happens, because I'm a little butthurt on some things, but I haven't read it yet. So I couldn't 180 on my opinion completely and be like, oh no, this was the right decision. Didn't you see how so and so did such and such and everything else happened this particular way? You know, like people can change their mind at any point. So you got to take it
Oh,
at an
for
ease,
sure.
people.
Yeah,
Most
and
definitely.
it's also like I don't know. It's one of those things that like my partner is starting Artemis Fowl, the book series. It's one of my favorite book series of all time, but I have not read book 8 because I know what happens to that boy in book 8. And it's one of those things that like okay, yeah, the character dies and he comes back somehow whatever, but like I don't know how. And I just went through this entire emotional journey of being really invested not only in this world but in these characters that it like it doesn't matter even if by context clues or by like spoilers that I've seen on the internet. It's me sitting down and listening to it and like hearing or reading the scene and being like, "Oh god, oh, it's happening. Okay, that's so cool." Like I can't do it. I read it when I was 14. It's just not like it's and when it comes to something like this, like, yes, you know, and yes, we know, but it's also one of those things of like, there are some comic fans that don't know out there and that don't follow solicitations like that and
Yeah.
that are not really like plugged in or locked in that way. So it's just one of those things that like, I appreciate the knowing and I can't really be that mad at the knowing because of like this is what we do and I would have known otherwise because like that's just how this
Especially with
fandom
us,
operates.
like we get the press emails, like we knew the minute it dropped. Like I dropped
Oh,
in the Discord
yeah.
immediately. So especially with that, we're finding out things, and I get it. I definitely understand the frustration behind it, but it's like we're in the digital age. Someone was gonna spoil it. Someone was gonna like get in your head about it. And I remember when like spoilers were coming out for Metal while I was at Cincinnati Comic Expo in a panel with Scott Snyder. The press outlets were dropping the stuff, and I was getting emails for the stuff. And
That's crazy.
I'm like feet away from Snyder and Capullo, and people were like dropping shit. I'm like, bruh. Can I enjoy this for 2 seconds? I'm like trying to get info on Duke, finding out Duke ain't getting shit because DC don't like black folks.
The
And it's just
industry
like,
moves in waves. That's the scary thing. Like they're always going to be ready to drop the next thing because they're already thinking, what do we need to do next quarter to make sure people keep coming back in some kind of way, you know?
I remember when like the announcement of Blade got dropped at like Comic Con a few years ago, and like the internet broke. And now it's like, what happened to Blade?
Right,
No,
right. I'm still
literally.
very disappointed on that. They teased that
Literally.
at like what was it? The end of the werewolf one, werewolf by like Moon Knight or something like that.
They dropped it in Eternals. They
Yeah.
dropped
That's
it
what
in
it was.
Eternals.
That's what it was. Yep. At the end of Eternals. And so like since then I've been like, come on, any minute now, someday.
Right.
And Marvel just
One
keeps
day.
pushing that back.
It's very annoying, but we will definitely
I'll be
get
50.
there. But in terms of who the victor is, man, there was some butthurt people online about who the new Sorcerer Supreme was gonna be. There was two camps. There was the butthurt people, and then there was the hype people, the stands that were excited. And as somebody who is very indifferent to Miss Wanda Maximoff, I'm not a hard body karate fan, but I let her do her thing. I'm like, all right. Let's see what happens. Would I prefer to see Storm get it because Storm
Yeah,
has ties to
well,
magic?
yeah.
Cool. Would I would have thought it'd be really funny if Gambit would have got it? Yes, but like, sure, why not?
I
I'm
think
cool with
like
it.
it's just like a crazy thing to get mad at. I don't know. And it's also like one of those things that like Wanda stands. Say what you will, you gotta appreciate how they ride for that girl. You gotta appreciate how they stand by her. So it's kind of like, I don't know. Like I understand like getting mad, and like I also was rooting for Storm, but it's also just like, yeah, I think it'll be cool. I don't know. I'm so la-di-da recently. I'm in my la-di-da era. I think it'll be cool. I'll read it. I think it'll be cute. I don't know. Or it'll be scary, and it'll be really weird.
Well,
And it'll
like,
be the most, like, devastating thing. Or it'll
it's
be cool. I don't know.
it's funny because like some people were kind of like laughing at it because Steve Orlando, the like one of the writers who has written Wanda before, it was like, did we just have a Wanda book? Yeah, we're getting another one.
Right.
Deal with it. And it's like I'm down with it. Like I want to see more standout
Read it
characters.
if you need a.
Right.
Read it if you wanna.
I will
Exactly.
say, like, there were some people that were butthurt that Magic didn't get it, and I will be
that's
like,
fair,
you know what?
actually.
I would have got down with Magic, and especially because we're getting a Magic and Colossus book next
Right.
year. It was
Especially,
like,
with her run and, like, how good her run's been doing and stuff like that. I kind of see, like, that disappointed angle.
I could see that. One of the things too is to where like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my train of thought there.
Get it back.
Right, back onto
Run
the
over
train.
let's run. Yeah!
But one of the things is to where like I was rooting for more of the like Storm. Obviously, I'm not big on the whole Marvel universe, so I don't watch the TV shows or I don't know anything outside of the TV shows and movies that much when it comes down to Wanda. And so it kind of more felt like this was the point of pick that they were always going to choose, just because she's
No,
so much
yeah.
out there in the focal field of everybody. It kind of just felt like, okay, that's just the safe bet for them right now, you know? And I feel like Marvel's going to be doing this thing for the next few years to where it's like, we're kind of hedging our bets on something that's a little
Yeah.
more safe. That's why we're getting a remake of Tony that's coming up and stuff like that. Back onto what you said, though, for Magic, I would love to see that. That would be something fantastic, because I've been playing her in Marvel Rivals. I don't know too much about her. It gives us
Read
a
her
little bit more
run.
momentum that's there, you know?
Read her run. I
she's
also
definitely
like.
had an interesting past when it comes
Yeah.
to things.
I also think it's just like one of those things that's like, as a comic fan, or even, yeah, honestly, like as a comic fan, you have to look at like and understand like, okay, this is the marketing almost choice. Like, it does make sense narratively, but I can also understand for advertisement purposes why they did this. And then you can have a personal cool choice. And if you live any other way, you'll go insane. I promise you.
Yeah,
You'll
yeah.
lose your mind.
Yeah, and like one of my favorite things, like it's funny because like one of my favorite versions of Magic ever was when she was in Exiles for a little bit, when it was like a different version of her,
Yeah.
and like people forget about Exiles, but like it was very much just like what if, but like time sliders, and it was very much just let's have fun and tell different fun stories and stuff like that. But even in that book, the idea of Ileana battling the thing of like, do I be the queen of the demons or do I be like an actual good person? And I've always loved that. To this day, it will always drive me bonkers that she was like the one comic accurate character in the New Mutants movie. So like it is genuinely one of those things where Magic would be dope. I feel like the idea of exploring her character in a capacity where she is someone who can be good but also is evil, it's similar to Wanda's, where Wanda's been through some shit.
Right.
Wanda's been like through the ringer when it comes to comic books. So I'm interested to see with this specifically if we see new dynamics with her, especially because like they even teased for the solicitation that she's gonna have like a council, like an advisory board that she's going to appoint. And I'm like, okay, you're not going to be like Steven. You're going to do some things different. I'm interested to see what goes on here. This could be very dynamic. I'm very down for it. So we'll definitely have to be checking that out when it drops in December. The other big thing that we just had this past week that I wanted to talk about because comic Twitter was on fire about it. The Jonathan Hickman Marvel event Empire just finally wrapped up.
Yep.
I hadn't read it. I was very much like, I don't care. I don't care about people in space. But then it was like, oh, T'Challa's here? Fuck, now I have to give a fuck. And it was like, T'Challa's here, She-Hulk's here, like Star-Lord and all this nonsense. And I'm like, okay, this is very interesting. And we were doing a whole thing of like Richard Rider and Star-Lord were almost a gay couple, and now Star-Lord's evil, and I'm like, what's going on here? But the big thing that was the talk of the town over on Black Comic Twitter this past week was that at the end of the final issue, Jonathan Hickman shows that, in some people's opinion, that he understands Black Panther better than Black writers, and that was a hell of a take for some people because he reappointed T'Challa King of Wakanda after about 2 to 3 years of him being taken from that role, and then there being like a democratic like council in Wakanda. And a lot of people were a little butthurt about this. There was the conversation of, oh, we want T'Challa to be a king. This is awesome. These writers didn't understand T'Challa, yada yada. And I have a take that some people are going to be a little upset about. For me, I understood why writers like Ewing and John Ridley tried to make Wakanda be different. Because and Shuri kind of even says it in the issue a little bit, where she talks about how they tried to do prime minister and council type stuff better than America, better than Britain, better than like the colonizers, and try to show that they didn't need to live under a monarchy to be successful, because during the Coates run there was all the drama and the like espionage and the intrigue and all that nonsense. So for them it was the idea of trying to be better than the rest of the world. But in essence what Shuri ends up saying is their monarchy was already better than the rest of the world, and they kind of overdid it in themselves. And that was kind of the idea. Hickman isn't trying to say he's better than Black writers. He's saying they tried something. Now we're going to try to go back. Because in essence, the idea is saying that it's okay to deconstruct Wakanda. There was this concept that I saw people saying was they just want Wakanda to be Afrofuturistic heaven all the time and have no critique, no nonsense. But there needs to be this ability for Wakanda to be how like Scott Snyder's Gotham is, where you can tell stories on the inside. You can show that it is like infallible, that there is the ability for it to be its own character in a sense, where the government has issues, the people have issues. Like that was the whole point of what Killmonger said in the movie for a lot of individuals, is that like they've been living in this perfect society, and what people like Coates and what Ridley and Ewing tried to say was, is it perfect? Like, is it fully perfect? Is it fully there? So dissecting that was one of the best parts of Ridley's run. Even if you didn't like Ridley's run, the idea of saying that this was like a different perspective on Wakanda. It can't just be Black Heaven constantly. It needs to be talked about.
I think there's also, before you go, I was just going to say that I think there is like something to say about wanting a Black Haven perfect society where like nothing bad happens kind of thing. It feels almost as if putting these characters like in the glass bubble. Get it? It was just to make me laugh. But it's one of those things where I don't really, and I read some of like the critique and stuff like that, and I understand it from kind of a perspective of like Hickman, stay in your lane. But I also think you have to look at like the actual material, and I think you broke it down really well, Jay, because there is kind of like, well, yes, we want these Black characters, but like, what's to say that they're just kind of like there and perfect all the time?
Yeah.
Yep. And so something that I was gonna add on to that too, with everything that we see going on when it comes down to difference of cultures for politics and stuff like that. There's always going to be a push and pull. We have examples of that that's going on in like America right now. And so for that to actually take fold in the governmental place of Wakanda would make sense. If there's something that's not working there, they should backtrack a little bit. They can try to see if there's something different that they can do, or they could make it a extreme choice and go all authoritarianism. We don't know. Now, obviously, I don't expect Black Panther to do that. That's not something that would be on his radar. But, you know, there's things out there that allow these writers to grow this place a lot more than what we actually get to see, because I'm already interested in Wakanda from the movies, the TV shows, being able to pick up some trade paperbacks here and there. But I never got to see what you were talking about, to where, like, it would be nice to see them going through struggles of people who might not be so well fed, some people who might be going through issues of medicine at the time, being into certain areas in Wakanda that they can't get into. I get that they're a technological advanced state. None of that's supposed to be there theoretically, but no state is perfect. We have issues everywhere, and we need to find ways to figure out those issues. You can't just say, oh, well, we guys gave you a perfect society, so like there's your comic book, you guys should be happy. And it's like, no, that's not how things really should go.
Yeah,
exactly.
And Hickman does these ideals very well. And I think the complaint a lot of Hickman's X-Men and what Defenders try to like say is, well, like, he didn't have the time to like even break that down. I think it's one of those things that, like, to insinuate or to even think that like Hickman was going to kind of keep this like Nazi clone society the way that it was is a little asinine to me.
And
like Krakoa, and you can see in X-Men 97, like the animated show, and like the bleeds that we have of the aftermath of Krakoa culture, like, if more time was given to the run and to the island and all this stuff that we've said before, there would be a moment of like, oh shit, like, we're kind of doing exactly what they did to us when we lived in Westchester. Like, it's a full circle moment that, as a writer, he was not able to fully get to that conclusion and have those characters get to that, like, oh fuck, we have to, like, we're the bad guys here, kind of, and not by kind of, we are.
Most definitely. And it's interesting because when you look at what a lot of people will say is, they say when it comes to Black heroes a lot of the time that the topics that we deal with are constantly about race, but like, a lot of the stuff we deal with on a daily basis is race culture. Like, we have people, like, we're going to talk about it here when we get to the Batman conversation, but we're seeing people who went out as the Klan for Halloween and are getting no backlash from it. We're seeing like white commentators who wore blackface for Halloween and got no backlash from it. Like, it went from a system where there was definitive things where this was not allowed, and we're just allowing it because the way things are functioning. Meanwhile, like, Black characters are constantly having to talk about race and deal with those conversations because we can't even get an ongoing to last more than 6 issues. And it's one of those things. It's very interesting because once T'Challa finally gets a book where it talks about more than race, it's talking about their culture, talking about the different things like that, and trying to abdicate the throne and deal with things like that, people don't like it, and it's like,
Miles Morales had the swagger of a young Black teen, but at least he was allowed. We were allowed to traverse the city with him and have an adventure and see his growth as a character.
And it's one of those things of like, do people want it to be like back during the Priest run where T'Challa just took the place of Daredevil in New York? Like, do you want him to have no Wakanda? Like, Wakanda can't just be this perfect city 24/7. Like,
no, like it's a concept of like. It just makes me mad because I think it really, like, I think it speaks to, like, what is happening right now where we are so far from utopia in the way that every single, like, government is kind of running itself and slowly falling into this fascist lifestyle we live in, where we see in our media that kind of like being reflected of like, hey, like there's really kind of no such thing as utopia. And it's a thing that I studied a lot in school, like the meaning of utopia and the Thomas More and like actually reading the book. And it's not only not understanding like the satire of it, but it's also like misunderstanding like the impossibility of it,
Mm,
where it's like this is just kind of like a blanket concept that is not only impossible, but the reason that the concept exists is because it is impossible, and
yeah.
individuals or systems that work towards this idea are going to collapse. And so I don't know. I think you kind of birth flat characters, flat environments, flat worlds, and then you get situations where T'Challa, yeah, is a supporting character. Because if Wakanda is utopia, and if Wakanda's good and amazing, then he's good.
Yeah.
And why do you want to read about him? If he is good and he's a good king and everything's fine,
Right, there's no plot. There's nothing there. If everything's just
what are
perfect,
you
then,
going to read about?
then,
You're
then
just
what's
going
the
to see him
book?
for the Avengers team up.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Hit the
yeah,
nail on the head there.
I just wanted to dig into that a little bit because I was kind of frustrated by the conversation. Because even if you don't like Ridley's writing, even if you didn't like Ewing's writing, the idea of saying that Wakanda can't have shit go on does not make sense. And I need that conversation to evolve a little bit when it comes to the future of T'Challa, because we're getting a 5-issue, 6-issue mini in December that's spinning out of Empire, but I'm wondering, when's the next Black Panther ongoing? When's the next
Right.
Black Panther like series coming out? And I want there to be an understanding that like if they talk about Wakanda, don't expect it to be perfect, because hell, even the Black Panther movie, Wakanda wasn't perfect. There was dissension in the Dora Milaje. There was issues with the different tribes and whatnot. So to say
No, it's like, do you open like a Nubia run, or do you open like an Amazon story and think like, wow, paradise really is paradise? Or is it because you
yeah.
see women and you know something's
Exactly.
going on? Like, I really like don't understand like where the line is of like, we understand like in some utopia places. I can only think of Wakanda and the Mascara right now,
Hmm.
just of like we we think of some in one way and some in another, and we can largely think the MCU and like Black Panther as a movie and like the cultural revolution that it did have, but it kind of, to wrap like this conversation up,
Hmm.
it makes it lukewarm. It makes the environment lukewarm, and then it kind of produces lukewarm and low stakes narratives and situations. And you can argue about what Hickman said all day long, but like, are you going to continue buying a boring
Mm.
run?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is the thing, is that like people were saying that Hickman did more with T'Challa in like a couple of pages than even Eve Ewing and John Ridley did, and I'm like, I don't know about that, but like go off, I guess. But like did Hickman ball, and has Hickman been known to ball out with T'Challa before? Yeah, when he
Give him the
wasn't. Like when
time.
he wasn't king before during Secret Wars, he made T'Challa the king
Right.
of the dead. Like he's done crazy-ish with T'Challa before, but that doesn't mean what Ridley and Ewing did was bad. It's just
Exactly.
they are seeing they're seeing T'Challa from a black lens, because they're kind of doing like, it's kind of like the conversation that I had last week when someone asked me what's my perfect like DC Marvel team up, and I said Black Lightning versus T'Challa, like, and like seeing what the educated black man's perspective would be versus a kid from the hood like Killmonger who went straight into the military out of poverty. It's like that difference of opinion on the perspective of a like a secret like African monarchy is sometimes you're gonna have those people who live the Black American experience trying to analyze Africa, analyze Wakanda and whatnot. It's going to be a little bit different than what
Mm-hmm.
you expect it to be, and that's okay. So, just wanted to dig into that a little bit and talk about that. But now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the situation
Yes,
here.
sir. Yes,
So, oh boy! So
sir.
we hinted at it a couple weeks ago when Chuck Dixon was being a hooligan, but now we have finally all read the book of last week that we all recommended, which was Batman
Yes, sir.
Absolute Batman Annual #1,
Yes,
and
sir.
oh my god! Like when I first read that the only thing I could put on TikTok was just the clip of Alucard clapping from Hellsinger Bridge, where it was just like,
Literally.
I was right. It was the Nazis. It
Yep.
wasn't Antifa, Chuck Dixon. It was the Nazis. Like, let's all take a
Like,
seat.
what in the world? Like, come on.
The writing was on the wall for that one.
Literally.
We all saw the cover. There was going to be no question about it. And
To them,
like,
it was a question because they see us as the problem. They see
right,
they read
right.
the word they read the word Antifa and can't separate the two parts of the word and see anti-fascism. They see our great king and president is saying they're evil. They must be evil, and it's like
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And so,
And
like,
so,
even like reading the issue, it is so interesting. The Absolute Batman Annual, both stories, honestly, because I think there's a really interesting conversation there regarding the patriarchy. I think there's a really interesting lens on what the patriarchy, what the father passes down. And I think there's a really interesting kind of dichotomy, not only between, in the first story we see Bruce and his father, but also like the second story, the father-son relationship that we
yes.
see. There is kind of a thing here of a son being violent, a son being being reactive, a son being impulsive, a son feeling either slighted by the world or slighted by himself, or like what have you, and what they do in response. And then the conversation of their father, which I took to be kind of like systems, patriarchy, or like what you interpret, kind of the lens of what's told to you in childhood, and how you interpret it as an adult. And it didn't take Bruce until the end of that issue where like this violence occurs and mercy is given, where he kind of like stands there and he's like, yeah, like my dad would do that. And because of Bruce Wayne's like ability to realize, and because of his observation and having, and like the need to grow and be better, he's able to have that moment. But I think like the commentary, especially like with the second one, is that some people are not going to have that realization immediately, where
yes,
they hear their
yes.
father's words in that situation, in that story. Violence occurred and all this stuff, and that dad was hit and it was awful, and like it ends with a hug and a moment of like quiet.
No,
Not everyone's
yeah.
gonna be a Bruce Wayne that just kind of stands there and is like, I remember my father and what he taught me, and I will think of the future.
Oh.
Exactly. One of the things I want to add first is, while reading this, it felt so cathartic that all I could remember was like the 2020 Twisted Tea incident. Like, do you guys remember that?
Yes.
Yes.
Because like it
Yes.
felt
Yes.
so cathartic in that manner of just seeing everything that's been going on in the world, and just to have one thing, especially from the BS we heard 2 weeks ago, to be like, hey, come on, really, guys, this is what it is now. But then
Right.
like the deeper aspect, because like the priest talks about it inside the like story and everything, but it's that deeper concept of like, these are broken people still that are going through things. And as much as I disagree on everything that they do, I always kind of think of like the Superman in the back of my head of like, well, there
Hmm.
has to be some way to get to these people. There has to be some kind of way to show that like not all of us are a menace. I always put it up to the uneducated racism and just stuff like that, because
And
these people don't get to experience that. Go ahead.
what's so interesting about what you just said there is that like I took the one thing that Bruce says while he's going in on these dudes, where the one dude says, we're human beings and you can't do this.
Hmm.
And Bruce says, no, you're roaches.
Right.
And I loved that moment because it was very similar to the dehumanization we see of people in
Hmm.
society, where like from the alt right's perspective, we are not human, we are subhuman. But in essence, when it comes to when you're pushed, when you see the evil that has been taught, because like hatred is not born, it is taught. Like this is something that we know from society. We've seen the sociological studies on it, that hatred is taught. And when Bruce sees the hatred on display, where you even see the police pulling up to the scene and being like, hey, we can't let you do that,
And he's like,
Yep, no,
It was very much one of those moments of like, nah, Bruce doesn't see redemption for them. He lets the priest do his thing and is like, what are you doing? What the hell? But it is a very interesting conversation of how when you're pushed and you see true evil and you see how like what they've taught themselves, you don't believe that they are worth saving. They're not. There's nothing worth there, and it speaks to how the mainline DC Prime Earth is very much a fantasy. It is very
Right.
much a idealized world, because while yes, there has been certain elements of like say 9/11 or different events like that, or like occasionally there's drugs with things like Roy Harper and stuff like that, there has been different discussions of those kind of characters and different ideals and political discussions. It is very glossed over when it comes to things like what I was rewatching an old comic book documentary recently where Stan Lee said, "Yeah, no, we didn't talk about the Vietnam War because we learned from World War II that if Superman was here, he would just go fix it. He wouldn't
Exactly.
just he wouldn't just stand for it." So it makes it hard to have those conversations sometimes. Same thing with 9/11. Spider-Man just stands in the rubble. He couldn't stop everything. Like Superman couldn't really respond properly because he wasn't there. He couldn't just stop it. So it's one of those things where in the absolute universe that feels, if anything, more real and more visceral,
Oh yeah, you
more
have
true to
you have
nature.
a man, you have an individual that is there. That is
Yes.
quite literally like if you want to envision our real world, everything that is happening with the DC shutdown, with the government shutdown, imagine a figure like Bruce Wayne there at the
Yes.
White House. Like that is like the stakes kind of. We like Bruce Wayne in this world and in this situation like puts himself in.
Yes.
And it's not even like in a way that we think of it in like the fantastical of like, oh, he's gonna go stop Amanda Waller. It's like no, like he wants to take down the systematic fascist rise,
Yes.
and he wants to cut it from the root. And it's really interesting kind of the reaction he has towards the reverend and towards the priest, where the reverend and priest towards the priest, where it's pity at first, but then it's kind of like remembering his father's words, and it's an acceptance, because it's one of those things where Bruce Wayne as an individual feels so, in absolute Bruce Wayne feels so slighted by his father's death, feels so slighted that, because if you think of a prime world Batman and Bruce, he has the resources. He has this grief, but he has the resources. And you also have both parents are gone. So it truly just is the voices in Bruce's head that pushes him forward.
yeah.
Forward. Um, it's because I was reading the Jimmy Olsen book the other day, and I was laughing so hard at the Gotham accent that the whole day I was like, moited.
He was
Moited.
moited.
He got
Oh
moited.
Lord.
Thanks, listen to my voice reels, whatever company's listening. No, but it's just like the conversation of Bruce, like absolute Bruce. His father is gone. And his father not only was, if you think of a Thomas Wayne, how we think of him, a healer, he is not only a healer through his hands, but like through resources. This Thomas Wayne, a teacher. He didn't have the resources. He purely had knowledge.
Yes.
And he purely had an all that he had like in this scope, especially the way that Absolute Batman portrays how Bruce was raised and like grew up even before the tragedy of like this was just like a guy. This was just his like 9 to 5. Is that not even more tragic and more like realistic that like
Yeah.
hey, it's not, and that's like that's the argument and the kind of like criticism against Bruce Wayne all the time. But to have one parent die and not the other, Bruce is not only so violent and so angry and all this stuff but he has a mom at home. What does that do, and what does that say to kind of like I think of like the prison system, and I think of like the pipeline that occurs with a lot of like young minority boys where their fathers are gone or their fathers are
Yeah,
dead.
exactly.
Exactly. And then something to add on to that too, with the symbolism that they have that goes on with this when from the religious aspect. My Catholic school teaching would be so mad if I don't bring any of this stuff up.
Let us know.
Jesus, I know, right?
Sunday,
Jesus ended up
let the
coming
Sunday
in.
school let us know.
I know, right? And so a lot of people talk about like, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? That's a constant conversation that we hear in every aspect of things. And so one of the things that immediately made me think of this comic book was Jesus flipping the table and being
Yes.
super
No, literally.
mad inside the church and stuff like that. And something that also constantly comes up and like makes me think about is Jesus wasn't just mad about like the stuff that they were doing. It was the fact that they also knew that it was wrong. And the fact
Exactly.
that there is this
Cruelty
aspect.
for cruelty's sake.
Yes.
Exactly. And so if you're going to go through and do this cruelty for cruelty's sake, and you know that these things are wrong, there is going to be punishment for that. I'm not going to be the person that has to say what the punishment is going to be, because like my cathartic ass is going to say we're going to send Batman on you. But
Right.
like, you know.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where like you see what, if anything, the capitalistic structure does to this version of Batman, where with Prime Bruce grew up in I like idolizing and understanding a system.
He was able to leave.
Yes, he was able to leave. He was able
Prime
to
Bruce was able to be like, I gotta go, Alfred. And Alfred was like, cool.
Yeah, and like he had the privilege to go see the world. He had the privilege to like to live with money. He had the privilege to see the world differently. Yes, he understands. Like even Fracture kind of pointed out in number, I think it was issue 2 of his current run, that he understands what police brutality is. But he grew up knowing there was a system. Versus with Absolute Bruce, he knows the system is flawed, and the system doesn't care about poor people, and the system doesn't care about the marginalized people. So he understands that other people can't get things done. And one critique that I saw was, I think Daniel Warren Johnson understands that DC can't just let a black character do this.
Exactly.
DC,
Yep.
DC and Daniel Warren Johnson knew it had to be a Batman. Or in the case of Superman Fights the Klan, it has to be a Superman that does this. Because if a black character does it, they're just going to call it woke and panic and try to boycott it. Here, it's, we're going
It
to...
almost like passes race in
Yes.
a way. Like it go like if you guys don't want to have like the race conversation, fine, whatever. Like whether it be fans, whether it be industry, let's step further.
It's going to be
and let it have
allyship
it
in
be,
this sentence.
yeah. Let it be a face that everybody knows, but let it play in a way where if this was a black character, you would lose your goddamn mind for reasons that you don't want to unpack, that
And
you don't
he-
want to
and-
think about, especially in the first issue.
Yes.
Him going to play a game of poker
Yes.
with his friends from the block. Right.
And what's even more interesting about it is the fact that like if this would have came out in like 2020, 2016, there would have been the comics gators that would have bitched and moaned about it. Like there would have been those
Exactly.
people. But it shows where our country is, where our society is, where like you had like people using AI and their own fan art tools to redraw the dude saying white power as a black dude with an afro and making him say Black Lives Matter. And like seeing people, or like seeing people who should know better, like a Batman, a writer, an artist who created one of the most marginalized characters ever in Bane, draw absolute Batman fighting anti-fascism, but like
Right.
which doesn't make any fucking sense. But like it shows where our country is, where like that kind of worldview is shifted to where it like even allyship is being attacked and seen as a problem now. It's like we can't even have that conversation. Like we have Daniel Warren Johnson coming in here as a wrestling fan, having dude drop one-winged angels in this motherfucker, and people are like, no, it's wrong, no. And the one that got me And if the asshole from Twitter is listening, because apparently he thinks our podcast is woke garbage. If you're listening,
Really?
hi.
We're woke garbage. Yes.
That's so fun.
But like, if the guy from Twitter is watching,
Wait, that's silly.
he replied to Comic Book Cringe's like post about Absolute Batman Annual and said that Bruce Wayne is doing this to average Americans, and DC wants you dead like Charlie Kirk. And I was like, hold
Hey,
up.
guess what average Americans have done to me?
Exactly.
Yep.
Like,
You want to talk? Can we want to talk about what average Americans have done to me and my family? You want to talk about it?
like, let's
what
talk
are you saying?
about this. Like, it just, if you're trying to say that a dude saying white power is the average American, maybe we need to call a robot we all know and have him go in.
You guys heard it here first. Comics Unmasked is woke garbage.
we might need once the mascot is done, we might need to make that a t-shirt. But like,
Yes.
that might need to be a thing. But it's just the
You're not even listening to us, bro.
It's just funny.
Silly.
It's just funny to me that like you look at this and you see police corruption. You see like these people almost saying white power, and you're like, that's an average American. Batman wants you dead.
Like,
DC
that's
wants
crazy.
you dead. Like,
Who are the boys you're going to the bar with? That's your average American? Cool.
And so here's one of the things too is I'm re-listening to Animal Farm while I'm at work because
Oh,
you know
poor
you
thing.
gotta. I know.
Yeah, honestly,
I know.
'tis the season. I'm also doing some crazy stuff.
I'm rereading The Crew right now from Christopher Priest, so I'm right there with
Hey,
you.
there we go. And so one of the things is to where like I have a buddy, he's deep on the opposite political scale than I am, and so like we have these conversations. He talks about police brutality. He talks about these things, and I can't get it through my head when it comes down to it, like how you can see all of the same things I see, but then decide to go vote on the opposite end versus, you know, the people who are doing these things, you know?
Dude.
And like, it kills me because you can't break through that mold sometimes when it comes down to our previous conversation. It's just like you're hitting a nail over the head, and it's like, yeah, this is your average American at this point because they just seem like this is the normal everyday thing for them.
And I think it also like, especially here, like if we want to talk about average American, like the mom mentality of it all, like the concept that like you can talk to individuals, and like I've experienced this with my family so many times where it's like they look you in the eye and agree with you. And it's like, oh yeah, like lives matter and like all this stuff, and like I don't think that should happen, like all this stuff, and you talk about the systems and the history and all this stuff. Push comes to shove, November comes, it's like, who did you vote for?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like,
exactly.
do you not respect me enough? Do you not listening to what I'm saying? Or is it like, did you know in the back of your head while I'm telling you these things and you're agreeing with me to my face? I'm going to do it anyway.
And I think that's the part that really dumbfounds me, especially because I've been doing a deep dive into
garbage.
The historical like past of DC and Marvel. Like there was a statement, I think it was from
comic books is woke garbage, dude.
Like honestly, because there was a statement that Denny O'Neil made when during the time of the Comics Code Authority, where he said straight up that before the Comics Code Authority, comics were super liberal. Comics were born in liberalism. Like, yes, they were born in corporate greed, but the people who were writing them, the first issue of Superman had Siegel and Schuster rounding up like government thieves and murderers and trying to do things of that nature.
And I've said it before, like the history of comic books and like what I have like been trying to focus my research on and stuff like that is like it is inherently born not only with liberal ideas in mind, but born inherently because of like classist separation.
Yes.
At the end of the day, everybody can make jokes. At the end of the day, a lot of people, everybody can draw.
Yes, and like it's so interesting because like yes, there was the period during the Comics Code Authority where you saw Wonder Woman in the kitchen, you saw Batman and Robin with girlfriends because they thought they were gay, and Superman became sort of like a Republican mouthpiece, kind of like how Frank Miller.
They don't understand like the historical
there was a time
of like
period.
When the war ended and everyone came home, and it's like, hey, what else do we have to talk about?
Exactly.
Let's look at the media we're consuming. Oh my God.
Yes.
I just opened my son's comic book and there's men.
And it's insane when you dive into it with like when you actually look at the discussions people were having, and then once Stan Lee of all people, Stan Lee
Literally.
was requested by a governmental body to tell a story about drug use, and the Comics Code Authority, which was like the self-policing platform, was like, nope, can't do it. That's drugs. We can't do it. But he put the book out anyway. That's when you saw comic books starting to be liberalized. When you saw Frank Miller do that parallel of Superman being Reagan's henchman. When you saw the stories being told. We saw
Like
Watchmen
broke
come
out from this
and-
funk like
and,
after World
exactly.
War II and stuff
you,
like that.
You saw the stories being changed to where ever since then, comics have been fucking liberal as hell and have been getting even more and more liberal as time goes on, where you see black characters not be stereotyped big-lipped sidekicks and things of that nature. Where you saw different stories being told, where you saw Asian characters go from being weird, like fanged, like weirdo demon creatures to being actual people. You saw over time more and more things getting better, but then once around like the 2010s, 2016, you saw the Gators come in. You saw them start saying, I have this weird image of comics used to be not political, even though literally Captain America and Bucky used to tell you to sell your paper for war bonds, and that's why Golden Age comics don't exist anymore. But for some reason, you're under this weird delusion that comics have never been political. Like, the only reason why Batman and Superman mainline aren't that political is because they have to skate a line. That's why this is an Elseworld story. This is a different universe that, like, Daniel Warren Johnson is telling the story. And some people were on Twitter like, oh, this is an annual, it's not canon. No, bro. Snyder was promoting it. Snyder
don't
was talking
understand
about
that mentality either. Like, what does that mean?
They're trying to say that Daniel Warren Johnson twisted the narrative of Snyder's vision.
Even
it's like,
if it's not canon, are you gonna close your eyes and pretend this didn't come out? Like, I actually like don't understand the mentality. Like, I need to know: are you reading the same thing I'm reading?
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things too, because you guys like hit the point on the head very well, it's propaganda. That's the whole aspect that people don't understand, is propaganda is out there in many forms, many factors, and in many ways. Propaganda is not a bad thing. It's supposed to get you hooked onto something for a reason. That's why it's propaganda. It's supposed to get you hooked.
You just need to understand how it works.
Exactly. You have to understand where it comes from, how it works, because there's a reason why we had propaganda going on during World War II to get women into the, workplaces more, so that way we could have them doing construction.
Guys,
that wasn't a bad thing.
And then once the men came home, the women got put back in the
history.
kitchen. And it's like, it's the same thing. Like, if you do a little bit of research, they try to, like, do this weird revisionist history thing. It's like, no, this has always been going like this. I don't know where you got this weird idea from, but, like, we've always been telling these weird, like, one of my favorite comics ever was during the Onslaught era, where Wolverine had the adamantium ripped out of him, and Elektra was telling that story of, are you going to keep being a caveman? Are you going to keep being an animal because you got wounded in this horrible way? Or are you going to be a real man? Are you going to be a real person? And it taught him to stand back on business and explored his humanity. And it's like, people don't like to actually look in the mirror and realize that media literacy and the lack of media literacy is an epidemic in this country. And when you allow your worldview to be this weird echo chamber where you can't explore things, for sure. And like,
you're only hurting yourself.
Exactly.
Like, getting on Twitter and doing like, and that's why it's like, you are inherently taking the fun out of a medium you pursue and pay for.
Exactly.
And take the time to read. Delete Twitter. Delete your social. You can look up your polls regardless.
Exactly.
The lists are everywhere. I don't understand getting yourself or like purposely rage baiting and then being like, oh, I'm gonna read it anyway though.
And what's so worse about it is that, like, now that they've been sort of like checkmated, that like comics have always been political, their idea now is, oh, well, I'm gonna go make my own, and I'm gonna have big titty bitches that are sexy and have tokenized stereotypes and yada yada. And I'm like, what the fuck?
You don't
They
understand
live in their own
politics.
weird warped view.
Right.
It's like,
and this is going to be the crazy part for that too, because even if they do and go do that, they tried doing it with the town recently, I saw in the news. It's going to fail. People aren't going to go and read that. It's not going to be good. I'm sorry to say, there's a reason why people go to school for this.
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, it's also the idea of like who is like this far right org trying to put on like another like Super Bowl show,
Which
or
got
like another
canceled apparently because no one knows who Kid Rock is. So that was funny.
because they couldn't find talent. Nobody, while the Super Bowl was going on, which they probably didn't have the money, but also
Yes.
everyone wants to go see the Super Bowl.
And what I thought was so funny about
What are you doing?
like the interview that I had with T.S. Luther yesterday that we're premiering next week, like one thing that really struck me that I wish more people were like T.S., more people were willing to sit down. It's okay to be a cis heterosexual white man. It's okay.
Absolutely.
It's okay to be
My man is one. He's
default.
so cool.
Right, like it's okay.
Everyone loves hanging out with him.
Like it's okay to be the default that America has accepted for like hundreds of thousands of years. Like it's okay, but and like I know there's this weird like male loneliness epidemic where you think you're being told that you're the problem.
Guys, I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna get really close to the mic. And I'm gonna say something. If you're like a white cis het male, and you're like, oh, like all this stuff, like that's just like that's called insecurity.
Yes.
When I was 10 years old, I just like that. Like my friend was insecure.
Yes, and like and what's so interesting about it is that like they
Don't
think
make new terms.
They think women
do that.
they think women being liberated and allowed to think for themselves means that they're a problem. They think they're a problem, so they have to listen to Andrew Tate and shit like that. And like they're like,
You did this. Like you put yourself in this mad stuff. It's just like when I get really sad and I'm crying and someone slights me and I'm dramatic. And I open up Spotify and I listen to Mitski.
And they think they're
there.
the victims. It's like, no, you're not the victims. You just need to eat those L's, move forward, listen to conversations, and get better. Because the one thing that TS said yesterday, yes,
have your crash out, but you have to like
learn from
turn it off.
Yes.
Exactly.
You have to like leave your room and be like,
because one thing
that was
TS
dramatic,
said,
okay.
Yeah,
but like you live and love yourself and
Yes.
understand that like, okay, well, I would feel worse if I didn't have a reaction in this way. Because it's also one of those things that, like, I don't understand the conversation of, like, like, what is going on right now, especially, like, in this industry that we're in, where these stories inherently try to teach you a message of some sort, and then you have individuals that are kind of just like, well, I don't like feeling shamed for like how I grew up, and it's like
that you took it that way doesn't mean you're being shamed for it. You
Exactly.
took it like that because no one said you're the problem. It was your ancestors that were the problem.
Exactly.
And that's the thing that like TS said
So
yesterday.
were mine.
Right, and like
mine came and got them.
right, and it's one of those things that like we were talking about yesterday with TS, where it was like he said flat out that I'm a white guy trying to tell a story about a problematic white guy going into Spanish culture and stealing artifacts. I had to hire sensitivity readers. I had to hire people to look over the script because I wanted to get it right. I wanted to do it right. And people hear the word sensitivity reader or they hear about Sweet
like
Baby Ink
and that's
and shit
just
like that.
having respect for your art. Honestly.
Exactly. But then they're like, no, I want to have tokenized stereotypes. I see my
It's like,
worldview is better than
why?
yours. And that's like, why? Why would you want that? Why would you want that to be the world we live in? Like, why would you want authenticity? And it makes no
And
freaking
it's also
sense.
one of those things that like, BR, because I want to hear from you in a second, but it's just like this mentality. No, because it's like I saw this all the time, like literally months ago in workshop.
Yes.
Guys, I don't want like I'm gonna get really close to the mic here again and flex. I have a degree in creative writing. I worked really hard for it so I could get on this woke liberal podcast. When Jay hired me, actually that was like the first requirement. He was like, I need to see the bachelor's.
I need to see.
And-
I see your woke degree, man. I need to see your liberal
he
arts degree.
saw the humanities and he was like, wow, you really like were really
You really
sad in middle
bit that
school,
propaganda.
You drank the Kool-Aid. You're with us now. It's all right. You don't want to be a real woman. You want to be a liberated woman. Da, da, da.
Yeah. No, but it's just like you encounter this all the time in workshop. But the thing that I love about workshop and why I am so grateful for my degree and the work that I did is that like you're allowed to be emo and you're allowed to just be like, yeah, whatever. There is like to this day, like I think about like to the people I was in workshop and I'm so sorry. Like I wrote a story that I was in a really bad headspace. I turned in this story, and when I came in and read the feedback, everyone was like, "Yo, this like kind of needed like a trigger warning," and I was like, "What do you mean?" And I was playing it. I was like thinking about it like the other day. I wrote a story where a girl finds a dead homeless man, breaks his legs, puts him in a duffel bag, brings him to an apartment, and gives him to her brother for him to eat. And I turned that in to my workshop as a senior, and I was like, this is really gonna get them. And the letters were amazing, and everyone was like, this is so great, this is so vivid, this was scary. And I was like, what do you mean? You want to see scary?
I'll show you scary.
It was just one of those things where, like, I now reflect of like, oh yeah, like the writing absolutely was amazing, but to like present that in like a short story form for a workshop, and I don't give notes, I don't do anything. Usually, like the etiquette in workshop is like
Go stupid, go
you
crazy.
explain. No, you like explain a little bit like what feedback you want. And I never did that. I just presented the craziest shit I could think of, and everyone would be like, "Wow, this is like great. This is amazing. Like I really like loved reading it. Like I don't really get it though." And I'm like, "It's fine. It's not for you to get." Like I didn't utilize workshop the way workshop is like designed and meant for, because I was just like, "Oh, my work." But it was also one of those things that like that high mentality. Workshop is so fun and workshop was so amazing. My favorite part about workshop was reading other people's work and like
Love that.
critiquing them and being like, I read this and I didn't like this part. This is what took me out of it. Change that here. Because now I can sit here months later and be like, yeah, that did need a trigger warning. Yeah, I was indulgent in my own darkness.
Right.
And now I am in this space where I've quit nicotine. I put down those sticks. I'm not a John Constantine anymore. I thought him so cool. I thought a Lois Lane so cool, and I've stopped, and now I'm sitting here, scared of everything, and I'm trying to write and continue my book, and I'm like, oh, I can't talk about these themes right now. I
That's
can't write
wild.
about these themes right now. I should have put a trigger warning. Like stuff you don't even realize in the time, like if you don't talk to other creatives and other people and like get out of your own like ass, actually. Like sometimes the work is good, but sometimes people know the work is self-indulgent.
Yeah. All right, B-Rex, cook on this. I need to hear your thoughts to wrap this
Yep.
up.
And so one of the things I was going to throw in there is like something I said on a couple weeks ago is that like your guys's for the white cis male, your guys's entertainment isn't being taken away. We're not trying to step into your place and remove it from you or anything like that. My favorite example for that for this week was the red and blue Superman that came out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so good. There was an
So
entire
good.
thing, yep, to where he's talking to a journalist in a cafe talking about how like, you know, the secret identity is actually Superman, you know, that whole aspect. Like the aspect that I feel a lot of men, even black men, even white men nowadays, is that we're not allowing to feel our emotions. I'm
Yes.
grateful I was raised by two women for the majority of my life, and then I got to see my dad on the weekends, you know? And so I was
Yeah.
able to be more in touch with my feminine side, is what most people would say. But like, you gotta allow yourself to feel these emotions. If you're feeling angry about what's going on at the time, perfectly understandable. But that doesn't mean you get to direct that anger towards a particular community. That doesn't mean that your
Yes.
anger gets to be this vocal point for just these sole people that you think are your issues, because 99% of the time the people who you think are the issue, they're just trying to live their life. They're just trying to go to work, they're just trying to get on the bus, they're just trying to drive to work, and for some reason
Like,
just
you
because I have
gotta-
a
you
skin
gotta
color and I
grow
cut
out
you
of
off,
it.
you're gonna get mad, you know? It's like
Exactly.
you need to calm down, feel those emotions. It's okay, we're all human, but like we're not taking away your media. We're trying to just add more to your media, because those characters are only going to get you so far in entertainment, to where eventually, if you have a full grown universe, you're going to have people who will nitpick things like the Marvel universe is now because it's so good. You know,
Right.
that's why people are in there and saying, I don't like this, I don't like this, they could have done this better. But it's all still a billion-dollar industry that's making them money.
And what I find very interesting is that we have this weird issue where there's two groups of people. where if you grew up in a town where it was all white people your entire life, and then you go to college and you see a black person, or you see a Spanish person, or an Asian person, or a woman who wears pants, and you see these people, and you have two ways to react. Your first reaction could be, I don't like them because they're different, or it could be, I want to learn more about them because they're different. And that's the issue that I see a lot of the time, is that people are so stuck in their learned worldview that they're not willing to learn more. They're not willing to I legit I know, like, I have a friend,
or like get past the uncomfortability. Like
yes.
It's like kind of like you don't have to make a joke about it. Like it's not funny. It's uncomfortable. Like, it's okay to be. It's okay to be
uncomfortable sometimes. It's okay to listen. It's okay to understand, because that's the biggest problem with the day and age, where everyone has a platform, everyone has their own way to do things, and rather than, and like there was a great example that I saw a few weeks ago where everyone was bitching about the Bad Bunny thing, and there was this woman who was like so stuck in her ways, and she was like, so how do you feel about the Bad Bunny thing? And like the person, her guest on, was like, it's fine, I'm excited. Well, he's not American. I'm like, and she was like, yeah he is. He's from Puerto Rico. Well, that's not American. It's like,
I've been making the joke recently and all around, because at the end of the day, like, I am still like caught up in like undergraduate like drama and stuff like that. People that are racist or use racism for like jokes or rage bait or whatever, it's like not good anymore. It's like not even funny. It's like not even like, oh, you were wrong for that, but that was hilarious, kind of like. It's just like, you're just saying stuff.
Right, you're just
like,
saying
there's
words.
Like no, there's such a level of comfortability now that it's not even you sit there and are like, I'm gonna take advantage of this situation, like craft a bit and a joke, but like, and understanding that like we can all like laugh at each other, like in a kind of South Park way.
Yeah.
You just are opening your mouth and making an observation.
And
what am I supposed to laugh at?
Yeah.
Yep. And there's a difference to things to where, like, white people, I know you guys have your black friends that are out there to where you guys can, like, hee ha ha, make some jokes or whatever. But if there's
but that's
like,
that one person. I don't know.
There's that one person. Okay, don't be going out into the community.
In your nonsense half the time. That's
exactly. Exactly.
And that's the issue that I see a lot of the time, where like
or they don't know,
or like I'm even having to make a video after the show about a dude who was a black dude talking shit about women in video games, and I was like the first thought to my head was, damn. Your worldview looks real good in that house, don't it? Because genuinely, the issue that we see a lot of the time is you get so comfortable drinking the Kool-Aid and being a houseboy that you're unable to listen and understand that maybe what you're okay with is a bad thing. Maybe what you need to do is hear a different perspective and stop being a dumbass. And people don't know how to do that.
You also feel better. It's like you are inherently barring yourself from community, and like to go back to like B's point about anger and stuff like that, it's like I don't want to like, I don't know, get all woo woo and like guru here, but like you're killing yourself. Like, you're killing yourself. What are you mad at?
It's
you
like,
don't even understand. You can't even show me from like logical, even like spiritual, you can't explain to me why you're mad. So I'm gonna leave, and I'm gonna either turn off my phone, or I'm gonna go home, and I'm gonna do what I need to do, and I'm gonna move on, and you're still going to be mad. And it's like gotten to the point where it's like, awful. Everything that's happening right now is awful, but like looking at my peers and looking at people that like I thought I could hang out with, saying the most outrageous stuff to me regarding aspects of my identity, it's like, oh, like your comfortability
is a problem.
And that's everything right now.
And that's the thing too, is to where like for us, for you guys, like for us in general as our community, we're able to go out and actually find people who are indulging themselves in more activities that are going to be beneficial for them, versus to what I've noticed, this group, they're going to stew in their anger, they're sitting online, and they're not
going to drink, they're going to put in that double Zen, they're going to
exactly, they're not reaching out and trying to
15 milligrams. I got 15 milligrams in one time from like at a party, which was crazy and awful and disgusting, but like it was the amount of like stimulation realization, like,
Yeah.
oh Jesus, that like I
But
know
there's
you're
this
giving that to
like,
your friends. I love that kid, but I know you're giving that to your friends.
yep,
That
yep.
doesn't
But
do the mind good.
exactly. But there is this TikToker that like makes jokes about different communities, and he's a white boy. And so one of the things was like the smoke alarm stuff, you know? Really hilarious thing when it ends up popping up. It's really funny. And then one thing that I noticed is like months later, he ends up having another video that's going after like the Latino community and stuff like that. And then it's a stitch from a Latina, and she's like, "Hey, I just want everybody to know, don't get mad. He does this to the black people all the time. He's moving over to the Irish next month and stuff like that." Like, there's ways you guys can craft these jokes to make them actually
use the
funny,
South Park
you know?
method. You don't. It's especially
Satire is lost. Comedy is lost. It's one of those
honestly.
things that like think
Yep.
like say whatever you want or think like take however like the I will keep saying it. Your racism is not funny anymore.
Exactly.
It's not like we're
your
not
racist,
even
your bigotry
like
is not funny at this point. End of
it's
story.
not like there's no joke.
Yes.
I like can't comprehend that like and it's even like the anger like what Jay was saying that like you create this art and you try to make like jokes and stuff like that and it's like you don't even understand satire
Yes.
as a comedical form. So individuals that like watch South Park and are like, God, I really like what they're doing with PC Principal this season. It's like, what are you talking about?
The way I just retched. Oh my God. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead.
No,
and
and
move.
you know there is an individual out
You're
there
not wrong, but like that's
with some natties that are just
or like say what you
funny.
will, about like Charlie Kirk before he died. He thought South Park was like praising him for Cartman, and it's like no. But moving on. Last piece of news before we get into the upcoming comic highlights for next week. So, like I've been meaning to talk about this for like 2 weeks, but we keep having heavy topics and I haven't got to it. But the Something is Killing the Children by James Tynion IV is getting multiple projects with it, where Blumhouse Productions has stepped into the room and is working with James Tynion to not only get us a live action project, but a animated series as well.
Yeah.
And this right here,
I'm so excited. Oh my gosh.
and this is why this book is like the giveaway for the Discord launch, because this book is a perfect example of why indie books don't have to just be licensed stuff, or where indie books are just like weird projects and don't matter. Boom Studios believed in what Tynion had in front of him. They believed in what like it's Deladera, the dude's name is. I might be saying that wrong, but like like I'll totally but like Worth or Deladera, I believe. But like their series is so intense and so beautiful, and the people they've brought on, like Tate Brombell, to explore this mythology of like pretty much child soldiers being made to take out monsters in the real world. It's
so good.
It's such a
so
great
human
project.
too.
And
it's so like you
shows the
read
power.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, you read it and it's like, oh, like say what you will about like the wokeness, which is so funny, but like it's horror to me, and it like really like gets me scared when I read it because it is so like, oh yo, I know a town like this, or like I've had exact conversations with my friends
where
like this.
hatred
That it's
makes
like
these things spawn. And
it is so real. It's like it's
interesting.
what we were just talking about with like Absolute Batman. Like this is like kind of so like to the ground like. Oh, I've been in this exact
yes.
situation kind of before. I know a friend that's been in this exact situation kind of before. Imagine if that exact feeling
and it's
turned
so
into something
insane.
Tangible.
Yes, and it's like it's one of those things where like multiple awards have won for the series, and it shows what an indie project could be if you put love into it. When you put the work into it, and you show that it doesn't have to be a Batman, a Superman, a Spider-Man. A show can be impactful as hell. And, like straight up, the idea that your indie project is going to be something that it can be impactful, that is going to be something that can be this amazing. And genuinely, this is the perfect staple of a book. Like, yes, Image is a great example, or Robert Kirkman's work on Walking Dead and Invincible is a great example. But genuinely, this right here is such a great thing, and I want to sit down with Tynion one day and talk about this book, because
Oh my gosh.
right here, not only is this a great example of a man coming in the room and writing a girl trying to navigate this crazy life she's living in, having to fight these crazy monsters, but being able to show that children go through some fucked up shit, and you're able to tell this narrative. I genuinely just want to like everyone to check out this series before it gets
it's so
this
good.
treatment.
And like
Yes.
I said it before, like Erica Slaughter like is what everything I need like Diana to be right now as a character. I really have to give my hats to James, and why like James is an individual and as a writer I still kind of believe in the hope of like men can absolutely write women. You just have to see them as like, you know, humans. And I
Exactly.
think the relationship that is occurring with I forget the character's name right now, but like with her mother figure kind of thing, where it's like we are both in this situation together, and I know how I have to treat you, and I know how I should take care of you. I can't and I won't. And there's such a pain there that is so apparent when you read an Erica Slaughter. Like it is such like a damn, you knew exactly what you were doing from the start. You did it anyway and you survived. What
Right.
now? That can
Yep.
happen to any gender. And I think it is such like a poignant like she is like a final girl in her own way, kind of like character type, where it's like, well, we have to keep pushing, and if I
Yeah,
die during this, God, I hope I die during this.
man.
Yep. I also want to add in too, because like I think this is a perfect thing for our Discord. We are wanting to do a book club in there. And this is one of the
Yeah.
things that is on voting for our book club. And so if you want to be part of
Come in and
something,
vote.
we come in and read something together and you get our thoughts on it even more, and then you guys can put your thoughts into it. I think this is a great book for like
Most
just in
definitely.
general to read, because I'm going to read it even if it doesn't win our voting process, because
Yup.
it just sounds amazing. But at the same time too, it's a great way for a community to come together through these indie books, because it's important for everybody to read something, talk about it, start a book club up. It doesn't even have to be a big book. We're doing comic books. That's what, 84 pages at the most whenever it comes down to it, for like the worst read at the possibility.
I mean, B-Rex, don't you know comics are just for kids? They're not real. They're not, comics shouldn't be political either. Don't you know that?
Another thing
Right,
of
right.
propaganda.
I'm having high
started
hopes
after
over
World
here.
War II. Another line of propaganda that started
Exactly.
at that time.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into the books for next week. Like, because October
sir.
20, actually, no, that's October 29th. What am I doing? I didn't change the agenda.
What are you doing?
November
November
5th. This week's books. Not only like we have from DC, the highlights that we'll be pointing out. DC KO Night Fight. The preview for this book had me in my feels. Like, oh
Like,
my,
oh my gosh.
genuinely, the way Bruce talks about his boys is like so good, and I love how it genuinely shows that the Bat family matters, and it actually made me like Damian for 5 seconds, and that's hard to do because I hate Damian. But then Batman #3 from Fraction is coming out this week. Cheetah and Cheshire Rob the League is coming out this week, and then Absolute Green Lantern #8 is coming out. So get hyped for that. From Marvel, there was only 2 that I was like really interested in this week from Marvel. Planet She-Hulk by Stephanie Phillips, #1 drops and
Yes.
spinning out of Empire. It's going to be an ongoing.
sir.
Definitely check out that book. This one, I had no idea this book was coming out, but I saw it, and just the absurdity alone, it had me like, you know what? You might catch a pickup from me. Echo Seeker of Truth is going to be a one-shot by Taboo of the Black Eyed Peas. And I was like, you know what? Taboo's been trying to strike into
way.
Marvel for a couple of times. He's done
Wait,
a couple,
really?
yeah, he's done a couple one shots for Marvel before because he genuinely is passionate about comic books and trying to get native characters to
Didn't
have
Didn't he
but
do the
representation.
night? He did the Ultimate Hawkeye, didn't he?
I think he helped out with it or like consulted on it, but there was another book that he did, another
did-
Marvel Voices book he did a couple of years ago.
Oh,
But-
now I
but-
see.
But it's like
Ooh.
genuinely, I love like, and there's been a couple times where there's been some misses. Like I think CM
That's
Punk
so-
did a Drax book and it was a bit of a miss, but like but like then his wife AJ Lee did a like a Wonder Woman Black and Gold, which was a banger. So like there's times where celebrity books books don't really do that hot, but like Taboo's been hitting pretty good. I just didn't know this was coming out, so I'll have to go check it out. So I wanted to make sure everyone knew to go like grab this if your comic shop still has it. And then I read this to B before the show, but Astro, I'm gonna read you the premise of this book. And I really need your thoughts, because I want
my live reaction.
I felt like I was on crack when I found out about this book, because Post Malone has gone to Vault Comics and has created a book.
I'm gonna spark this real quick if we don't mind.
And he has created a book called Big Rig, where in the Dark Ages, demon hordes plague Europe as hell invades Earth. The Six Petals, a secret sect of Knights Templar, are in desperate need of a means to drive back the scourge and turn the tide of the onslaught. What crashes to Earth is the Rig, a fully loaded tractor trailer. In the aftermath of its arrival, the only man left standing is an enigmatic former priest excommunicated from the church. He will become the trucker and lead the fight against Hell's armies with a demon-slaying Big Rig. Written by Post Malone, with Adrian Wassel co-writing. And
you just threw like at least 5 different themes at me at once, and I'm. What? Wait.
and the craziest part is we're on like issue 4 of this book, and it drops on Wednesday.
What?
We're on issue 4, and it drops on Wednesday.
So I've got to add a couple 2 cents to this, because as a Utah,
before you start, I love Jay being like, we're on issue 4, as if like he's been new about this, he's been collecting, and he's like, yeah, the Rig, you know?
I saw it at the comic shop 2 weeks ago, and I was like, that says Post Malone on it. But I ignored it because I thought it was like the crazy. But then I saw it on the league pull list for this week, and I was like, I want to read what this is about. And then I read it, and I was like, I'm putting this here, and I'm going to read it live on air. And this is so absurd that I might have to pick it up just to read it, because damn, does that not sound fucking hilarious? Like the Cara like from atop the fourth wall on YouTube has this line whenever there's something absurd in a book where he's just like, comic books, everybody, and I'm like, yep, comic books. This is what comic book could be: demon fighting Big Rigs. That's where we're at, y'all.
So
give me your Post Malone.
I'm not sure if you guys know this. Post Malone lives in Utah. That is his whole big thing. He lives in Utah. Yeah. Everything that he described in this book was so Utah coded. I was like, this dude.
And I went to my local shop, and they had like at least 10 of the new issues.
That's why I'm so confused. This book it takes place in Europe. Like, why wouldn't you make it take place in America? Oh, B's like just shouting into the mic, muted. But B, are you good, bro?
I muted my comic. I muted my mic there because thank God. I went to 4 different comic shops, and they were all there. And they only had like 1 or 2 issues left, but they were all there. And I was like, how does Post Malone get in my comic shops, but I can't find Mr. Terrific worth crap?
No, like, I remember you left. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Well, like here's the thing though. We all know not Mr. Terrific. Post Malone is a big nerd. We all know this. Like, the man literally paid someone millions of dollars for the one ring for Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
So, like,
he's
one of
nerdy
us.
Subculture.
But like, just the absurdity of why is this book take place in Europe and not in America? Like, why not tell that crazy of a story of the church, especially in Utah? You think you'd criticize the church in Utah with this book, but he doesn't. And I'm like, why? That'd be hilarious.
Well, because okay, wow, that is so amazing, Jay. Thank you. I didn't know you were going to bring it home on my entire point this episode. When you make art that is kind of just like, this would be cool, and then you read it and it's like, yeah, this is cool. I don't know how long people are going to read it for.
Yeah. So, like, genuinely,
like, that's cool, Post Malone.
I might have to cop this digitally just because it
outrageous.
sounds hilarious. So like, shout out to Post
That's
Malone.
outrageous.
If you want to come on the show, I will read this whole book if you come on the
Post,
show.
if you want to hang out with us,
And you can come to my studio here at my house, Post.
No, I mean, like, yo, Post, if I could smoke a blunt with you, if I could get it and look you in the eyes and be like, so what were, like, the sociological themes for that's all I need. And
I would love to see Astra having a like philosophical breakdown about like Post Malone's comic book.
Oh god. Okay. And then from Mad Cave, Speed Racer issue 4 or 5 is coming out. David has been killing that book, so make sure you go support that if you're a Speed Racer fan. And then,
even if you are just like a fan of comics, it's such a good like coming of age.
It's a palate cleanser
story.
For sure.
It's a good palate cleanser.
I talked to my comic book person. I'm picking that up. It's on the pull list. I already got a couple issues ordered, back issues ordered. I'm ready for this.
I got the Racer X special, and I was so
and one thing that me and David talked about in the interview that I thought was so cool was that like there's 3 books going on. There's like a Stories of the Road anthology book coming out every few issues. There's the main book, and then there's the Racer X book written by Mark Russell. And they're all different tones.
Yes.
But it's the same universe.
And I also think that's like how I think of Speed Racer. Like, as an individual that is unfortunately, I'm not an unfortunate fan. I'm a proud fan of Speed Racer. I always think of like the story kind of a little broken up in my mind just because of this sibling almost rivalry of like a Speed Racer and a Racer X, where especially with like what the Nicktoons show did. Sorry guys, I'm 22. I'm going to talk about things that aired in 2010.
I mean, I watched it. I get it.
It was good, but like you also like when I think about that show, I think about very 2 different tones.
Yes.
Of like what the main character was going through, Speed, and like what his brother was going through, and like it almost felt like a different story where Speed is like coming to terms with like his father, and then his father reveals himself, and it's like, oh my god, Dad, where have you been? And then he watches that scene, and you're like, wait, where's X? It's like when you watch the Jonas Brothers documentary, and then you're like, where's Frankie?
Yeah, it's very interesting. And then one book that I wanted to highlight that I found out about this past week, and I'm salty about it that I didn't know it was coming out. Rodney Barnes, writer of The Falcon when he lost the shield, and then the writer of Philadelphia, which Astro, I need you to read Philadelphia. That is your next trade purchase is Philadelphia. It's so good. It's such a great story of racism and vampires, and I think you will enjoy it.
I was about to why do you want me specifically?
Racism and vampires. But no, like
racism and vampires. I think that's up your lane, right?
Yes, up my lane. But they were making fun of the vamp kids in the South Park, the Fractured Butthole game, and I the whole time was like, Kenny, I think this is like a little much. I think you're
And then, but like he has a book coming out called Crownsville, which is it's a story of a reporter visiting an insane asylum. So I pulled that. It's very good. It's coming out from Oni Press. I thought Oni went under, so I'm excited that they're still kicking. But I'm gonna
wait. That's so cool.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to read that. So like, make sure you are pre-ordering your books, folks. Discord server book boosters. We have all 3 of us and Ruby, who are all boosted in the server. We have White Wolf, which is Astro's boyfriend. Jen, Callie Hex, Little Bird, and Soft Serve. We appreciate your guys' support.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
The first ever Patreon, patron person. I don't know how that works half the time, but our first ever Patreon subscriber is Jen. We love her. We appreciate her support. She actually,
Jen, we love you.
Yes,
so much.
she actually got exclusive reward for being a patron this past week. I mailed it out to her, so we're excited that she is supporting us. We appreciate her so much. But that is all we have time for this week. Astro, what do you want to leave the people with?
I want to leave the people with read. And it's one of those things, when I say read, I mean read, because it's one of those things that I think with the medium of comics and like how short they kind of can be, you get into this funk of like, I'm just collecting and I'm just reading and I'm just buying, where I have a TBR stack like for a reason because I kind of really do want to be in this zone of like I have skimmed the Speed Racers and I've not read them because Speed Racer is so important to me that I want to sit down and I want like a cup of tea and I want to read it. So it's one of those things that like, and I've even had it to happen to me too as a comic content creator where I get into like, I'm not like I don't read enough or I feel like, oh, like I'm just like, but then I do read and then I think about it and I'm like, oh, I am absorbing this information like regardless. Like my numbers aren't up per se if you want to think about like, well, I used to be a person that used to binge books. That was I'm an English major. Woo!
But it's the quality of
It's
like
one of those
what you
things that
read.
like
You know,
say
it's
again?
the quality of how you absorb what you read.
Exactly. And it's like if you don't say like sit with it and you just kind of like look at the pictures and like look at it and you don't really think about it and you kind of just like close it, like are you going to think about it like before you go to bed kind of thing? And then you do have the moment where you get into like discourse, whether it be online or at your local comic shop, and someone says something and you're like, oh, I kind of like didn't think of it from that perspective. And is it because your lack of knowledge on the subject, or is it because you didn't just like sit and look at it
Yeah.
for a second?
Yes.
And that happens to all of us. Like everyone thinks me so smart, but like that happens to me all the time. Like there's a difference, and I was even talking to this with a professor. There, I think individuals like me in this Gen Z category grew up reading fiction and grew up reading fan fiction.
Yeah.
We are very good at this like imagining kind of this process where you like have something and while you're reading it's going in your mind like a movie.
Most definitely.
And what happens, I feel a lot with Gen Z, is the transition where they get into higher learning in college and they have bulk text. And because their mind is not imagining the same way that they have been growing up and reading like their dystopian fiction and stuff like that, they're like, I can't read and I don't know how to read. And that's the impasse that I see happen to my friends a lot of the times. And I think that happening in comics is so interesting because it's almost easier because the movie's happening for you. That's my final note.
All
Sit
right.
and appreciate your comics. You
There
bought
we
them.
go.
Most definitely. B-Rax, what you want to leave these people with?
Right now, my nephew is about 3 years old. He's just getting to the point that I'm going to be able to start giving him comic books and he'll be able to start learning that stuff. And for everybody that's out there, comic books aren't just for kids and adults, it's for everybody. It's for everybody to absorb a medium and to get an insight from something that would have not been in front of you in the first place.
Most definitely.
We've been talking about it on this show this whole time.
For sure, most definitely. And the thing that I want to leave people with is that I find myself frustrated with the big two right now. And I've talked about it in multiple different videos on the show that there's a lack of black content at like DC and Marvel. And it was to the point where I heard on Twitter this past week that there's a subsect of the comic Twitter of fan space that is starting to call DC Comics discrimination comics instead of detective comics. And I kind of sat there and had to unpack that. And genuinely, I have nothing but love for DC and its history. I literally watched 2 different documentaries this past week trying to get back into the history of it all. But at the same time, we have always been political. Comics have always been political. And yes, it is escapism, but as Stan Lee once said, it is the world outside our door. And you have to be okay with being uncomfortable and reading about other people's worldview. And I was talking to a friend the other day of like, why don't black books sell? And it isn't just that, marginalized groups don't have that much money or DC doesn't do good press. It comes down to sometimes that white folks just don't want to read about black characters.
Right.
And it comes down to that idea of some people are so comfortable with their Batman, their Superman, their Spider-Man, etc. They don't want to learn about other characters. There was the people who back when the Black Panther movie came out and said, why is there only one white person? And it's
What do
like,
you mean absolute Batman is beating up my uncle?
yeah. And it's like it's those conversations where people are uncomfortable with the idea of their favorite character not looking like them. And but I know a friend of mine, Ian. All of his favorite characters are women. He loves Mira. He loves Cassandra
yeah.
Cain. Like this man is the most like he is ace, but he loves his women characters, and he will go to war over the making sure that women characters are treated with respect. And it's like, it's okay for your favorite character to not look like you. So maybe expand your horizons.
It's themes. It's like what you want to look into. Like Mr. White Wolf just bought the history of like Negro comics or I
Because
totally forget the title.
B-Rex put them onto it.
Yes.
I'm
And
happy
I
about
thought that yes. And I thought that was so cool that like not only he took your recommendation seriously, but he was like, yeah, I do want to read it because it's one of those things that like even as my example of a white straight male, he is so interesting because he knows what he likes, but it's also like an understanding of like, yeah, I do look for these cis white man characters because I do see myself in them, but also having that understanding, like he doesn't bar himself from any, like you can have your cake, you can have the flavor that you like, but are you gonna walk away from the dessert table?
Exactly.
Is that all you're gonna get? I don't
Listen,
believe you.
You don't have to enjoy everything on that table, but at least take a bite. Take a
Right,
bite.
exactly.
At least say that you've tried it, and if you don't
Most
like
definitely.
it,
That's cool.
can't knock you for it.
And you
It's
might
your
find a new
pockets, it's
favorite
your
thing.
money. What can we do?
Exactly. So, but make sure you pre-order your books this week, because if
Yes, sir.
if you don't pre-order your books, if you're not paying attention to what FOC is, how are DC and Marvel and all these publishers going to know what you want to pick up? But we will catch you folks next time right here at Comics Unmasked. Peace out.